Last week's race C was almost perfect. Group 2's tire strategy and a track heavy on the tires themselves made for a great race. It was only the layout used that prevented it from being faultless. So what's race C this week? Oh. So let's bring back CGV from 2 weeks ago with custom slipstream, faster cars, and a location with walls everywhere. And not only that, the layout was one of the longest straights in the entire game. What could possibly go wrong? Because 80% of Tokyo East is a slipstream zone, putting it simply, the game plan for this race is to bump draft because the custom slipstream is unbelievably powerful. Here's the game plan done right. In this race, Ricky Bobby started behind me and bump drafted for the entire race. Now I'm going to show you 3 intervals showing how powerful bump drafting is when it's done right. Lap 1 through 2. AKG in 3rd is close enough to catch the double slipstream from 1st and 2nd while also getting a bump draft from the car behind him. So those combined make the slipstream even more overpowered. And that shows, as the group behind fully caught us into turn 1. Lap 3 through 4. This time it's Dova in 3rd, but they don't have the bump draft from the car behind, so it's not as powerful as if they were bump drafted on top of getting the double slipstream. As a result, the group behind doesn't catch Ricky and I into turn 1 as much as onto lap 2. Lap 5 through 6. From the outside, it seems as if some sort of incident occurred, but now we are the only 2 cars in the lead group by a considerable margin. Spoiler alert, no one ever catches us again. Unfortunately though, I couldn't get the win because the Supra doesn't have the pull out of the last corner compared to the R8. Now here's the game plan not done right. It is when you constantly go for overtakes which cost everyone around you time. And this is exactly what Sam here is doing. And to top it off on this lap, he unsettles Double T in front, losing even more time. We tried bump drafting him to gain time on the leader, but honestly, understandably, Double T wasn't that happy about that hairpin move, so he taps Sam out of the way at turn 1, which allows him and myself to go through. Now on any other track, we have broken away from Sam long ago, but because the amount of slipstream zones on this track, he's still there. And again, he's going for overtakes when it just loses time to the leader. That time it may have been netcode, but Double T again loses time from Sam being aggressive. And into turn 1, you guessed it, again going for overtakes when it loses time. He gets in front, but as you're about to see, it is visibly holding me up. He runs wide into the chicane, hits the wall on the exit, and starts making more and more mistakes trying to stay in front of me. So on this lap, I devise a plan. I intentionally let Double T pass, so I bump draft him and we both go ahead of Sam. And it works. Into turn 1, Sam is too far back to try and overtake. But once again, he's still there because of the custom slipstream. And actually, I let him go this time, because you don't want to be the lead car in a train on that straight. Once again, the bump drafting works, but again, he's going for overtakes when we've already lost multiple seconds stuck behind him. Thankfully, I cleared him this time, but now I want you to look at the distant little figure of the car in front. Watch how it gets larger over this lap alone. To put it simply, the gap stayed between 3 and 3.5 seconds when Sam was holding us up, but that went down to almost 2 seconds by the end of the last lap. If Sam had bump drafted more often rather than going for every available overtake and holding us up, all 3 of us would have caught the leader much earlier. But instead, he goes all the way back to 4th and loses over a second on the last lap. As for myself, I had to settle for the 2nd place for the 2nd race in a row. This specific race is the worst display of custom slipstream that I've ever seen. The car behind is already alongside the train tracks, and I go from pole to almost 4th. In this situation though, that isn't the problem. The problem is someone not accounting for the overspeed. 5th place is way too deep on the brakes and causes a 4-car chain reaction which puts me in the wall. second to almost 7th because someone was unable to judge braking points in slipstream. Now, brief penalty discussion. The guy who caused this whole ordeal only got a 2-second penalty, whereas Cake Frosting, who was launched into the car in front of him through no fault of his own, received a 5-second penalty. Make it make sense. Anyway, this is where I decided enough is enough, I'm not getting held up this time. I make a pass for 4th on the Peugeot right after the chicane, take advantage of the Ford hitting the wall in that same corner to go up to 3rd on the next lap, and eventually make a pass farm into turn 1 for 2nd. Now my sights are set on the leader, and I'll say this right now, it was very good racing with Kel in the corners, but as you'll see later, the custom slipstream made it ridiculously set up. Into turns 1 and 2 on lap 8, we go wheel to wheel, and he holds it well. So on to lap 9. This time he gets it all crossed up in the same corners, which allows me to get alongside. It becomes a drag race all the way through to the chicane when it becomes a last on the brakes scenario, and I was that last one on the brakes as the outside pass works for the lead. But now I'm about to show you the single most ridiculous case of the custom slipstream I've ever seen. Take note of this mistake from Kel because that sets it up. Onto the start-finish straight, note that the gap was 1 second. Now, the problem with the custom slipstream is that it closes cars in to make races closer, but it does so in a way that is so artificially powerful it's laughable. That 1 second gap, Kel has now briefly taken the lead back into turn 1. The Ford GT is faster than the Supra in a straight, but it's not 1.1 seconds faster on that straight. Here were the peak top speeds into turn 1 just there. Without the custom slipstream, I could only top out at 175 miles an hour, whereas Kel tops out at 182 miles an hour. That is a 7 mile per hour difference just from the slipstream, effectively acting like DRS used in F1 until the end of last year. This kind of difference is obviously not found on GT cars. To cap this race off, here's the finish. I like a good photo finish, but something must have went wrong in this situation. On this frame, I take the checkered flag. 3 frames later, Kel takes the checkered flag. Then only 2 frames later, the game registers Kel as P1. I don't know what the game's logic was there, but I'll show you these photos of the positions our cars were in at the time. Basically, sums up this week. So in conclusion, this week's races are a complete disaster. Race B is the 6,847th appearance of Red Bull Ring, and Race C is a custom slipstream battlefield, showcasing GT7's biggest problem in the most brutal of ways. Call me contradictory from what I said about the layout of Catalunya last week, but the problem is, when a daily race tries to fix something, it goes 5,000 miles in the opposite direction and creates the opposite problem. Last week, it was difficult to make a pass because of the layout choice. This week, it's way too easy to make a pass in general, even from a full second back because of the custom slipstream. We can only hope that next week's races are much better than this. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you around.